Well, it's early March. The weather's starting to break just a little bit. We're going to get some sunshine before too long, lots of it. And as soon as we start getting sunshine, you know what we're going to get? Weeds. You don't want to be plagued with them all summer. Neither do I. But there's a way that you can deal with that. Dealing with weeds in early March. That's what we're going to talk about today on Gardening with Mark. If you're like me, you probably have more than one bed in your garden, whether you have raised beds or permanent beds in your main garden, or maybe you have some raised beds or flower beds or vegetable beds where you plant things around the house that you like to be able to harvest for the kitchen, herbs and things of that sort. Every year, everybody has to fight weeds. It's a permanent problem anywhere in the world. And so this time of the year, before you start planting, before you really start working the soil too much, you might actually see some weeds starting to come up. They get green early, very early in the season. So today we're going to talk about what you can do to get a jump on weed control and a little bit about what weeds are and how we can manage them so we don't have to get down on our hands and knees all year long and spend all of our time in the garden fighting weeds and worrying about how they're going to affect our vegetables and our flowers. One of the first things you need to understand about weed seeds is that they are quite the survivors. There actually have been places on Earth where they have turned up soil, found weed seeds that they have aged at 600, maybe 1,000 years old, and they were able to get them to germinate. They were buried deep in the soil. That's maybe not the problem you have in your garden or in your raised beds, but definitely weed seeds can live for a very long time in the hibernation zone of soil. And every year when you work your soil, when you turn your soil, you bring some of those to the surface. And when they get in the germination zone, then they can become a problem. Well, what's the germination zone? You know, if you look at the back of some of your seed packs, they say to plant your seeds about 1/4 inch deep. Well, 1/4 inch is really just about the diameter of a number 2 pencil. That's all the deeper that seeds need to be in order to germinate. Some will germinate down to 1 inch or so, but a lot of seeds germinate very close to the top. So by the time you turn your soil and you bring up weed seeds that may have been there for decades, maybe longer, you're going to find those seeds in the germination zone, and with the moisture and the sun on them, they're going to become a problem. So how do we deal with them? What do we do about those weed seeds that are going to come up? We know they're going to come up and they're going to be in the germination zone. How do we deal with them? Well, first of all, every year, it's a good idea to turn your soil. You've got moisture in the soil from the winter. There's a lot of different ways to do it. You can use a broad fork, you can use a potato fork, you can use a shovel. If you've got a big garden, you can use a tiller, you can use a plow. In any way that you can to kind of turn the soil over and get what was on top just a little bit farther down. Let some of the air start to work its way in. Take some of the organic matter that's down below, move it to the top, and allow the bed to kind of fluff up a little bit. Anytime you can do that early in the season, that's a good idea. But you're turning up weed seeds when you do. Once you have your soil turned over, you flip the top upside down. It's a good idea to go through and break it up, get the soil a little looser. You're not going to be able to plant in it when it's rough like this. So garden rake and begin to break it up and move it around so it's smooth. Okay, so now you've turned your bed, you've broken up the clods, you've raked it level, it looks like it's ready to be planted. Now you've turned up those weed seeds and they're in the germination zone, that 1/4 inch to 1 inch. Here's where you can do yourself a tremendous amount of help for the upcoming season. This is how you solarize your bed. What you do is get some black plastic. You can either go to the garden center, someplace feed store. This is a piece too big for this small bed. I brought it from the greenhouse. But get some black plastic. Sometimes they sell it 5 or 6 mil thick. Or if you got a small bed, you can use black plastic garbage bags. Lay them over the bed. First of all, wet it, because remember, these seeds are going to germinate due to moisture and heat from the sun. So they don't know if they're going to get sunlight or not. They just know it's warm enough and wet enough to germinate. So the weed seeds are going to germinate. They're going to pop up through the soil, and they're going to be just little bitty sprouts. But when they get up above the soil, they're going to be trapped beneath this black plastic. Combination of lack of light and heat is going to kill off all of the weed seeds in that germination zone, or by far the most of them. That means when you take the plastic off, you're going to see a bunch of dead weeds. That's fine. Plant directly. Don't turn the soil anymore. Plant directly into your solarized seed bed, into that germination zone. Put your seeds in that zone, and you'll probably, if you've been fortunate enough to get good weather, sunshine, heat, and you leave this on for 2 weeks, you'll end up with far fewer weeds in your garden and your flower beds and your vegetable boxes. You'll end up with a weed-free summer as best as you can by using the power of the sun, a little heat, and knowing a little bit about weeds. Well, thanks for joining us today on Gardening with Mark. I'm Mark Carey at Steepleview Farm. Find us on our website, www.steepleviewfarm.net. Follow us on Facebook at steepleviewfarm.net. And by all means, come to visit us here in downtown Poplar Grove, Kentucky. We hope to see you here.